In this video, I'm going to show you how I got funded trading a simple mechanical system and also how you can get funded too. I've broken this video down into two simple parts. Part 1 is running through the prop firm dashboard and part 2 is live trade examples. I'm going to break down many trades that were taken for this prop firm challenge and so you can get a full understanding of my trading system. By the end of this video, you should have the knowledge and skills to be able to pass prop firm challenges for yourself and also the understanding of my simple and fully rules-based trading system. So let's dive in. So this right here is my FTMO dashboard, and I've actually been meaning to make this video for some time. In front of you, you can see this account was started on the 14th of February 2025. This challenge ended on the 27th of March 2025. This was a 100k FTMO challenge. The account type was swing, which isn't really too important. This right here is my equity curve. So we started off here at a balance of 0. This was a fresh 100k challenge. We then went into a little bit of drawdown. This was literally negative 1%. And then we pretty much had a steady incline until the profit target of 10%, which was $10,000. In total, the number of trades was 24, but this isn't fully accurate. Because my position sizes are so large, sometimes I have to open 2 or 3 positions, and therefore that would count as 3 separate trades, even though them 3 positions is for the same individual setup. Alright, so let's start scrolling down here. You can see we had a consistency score of around 78%, which, is pretty good. We're up in the upper quartile, which just indicates that we have a pretty consistent system. Scrolling down slightly here, you can see these are the trading objectives right here. The minimum of 4 trading days. You can see we had 13 trading days. Our max daily loss was only $1,785. Which is minus 1.78%. The third objective is a max loss of $10,000. Our maximum drawdown was only $1,847, which is only minus 1.84%. And the final objective, which is the profit target of $10,000, and you can see this was passed right here. You can see currently all trading objectives are complete. This is where it gets a little bit more interesting, but this is where the results are a little bit more skewed. Because I was trading a 100k account, my average profit per trade is actually around $2,000 and my average loss is around $1,000. Again, the reason why this is slightly skewed is because for some trades we have to open multiple positions, and so this will bring the average down. My average risk to reward is around 1.75, which is close. Normally it's around 2R. I know there's a couple trades that were closed early, and we'll get onto that in just a moment. We had a profit factor of 2.45, which is incredible, and a win rate of 58%. So with around a 1 to 2 risk to reward, this is absolutely incredible. And finally, we get onto the trading journal. This is basically live execution proof of all of the trades that I've taken. And in general, most of these positions were taken across gold and the US 500. And these are pretty much the only 2 pairs that I trade. Okay, let me just break down this first trade right here. This was taken on the US 500 on the 25th of February. So let's just break it all down step by step. The first thing in my simple rules-based trading system is directional bias. Are we looking for longs here or are we looking for shorts? You can see the 50 EMA is less than the 100, which is less than the 200. So this indicates that we are sell bias on this market. If you're looking at adding this to your chart, it's this one right here, EMA 20, 50, 100, and 200. It's by Dr. Sweet, so add that to your chart and favorites. Okay, so we are sell bias on this market, and we're heading into a New York session. All right, guys, make sure to make a note of this because I'm not going to repeat this again. The Asian session is between 7 p.m. until 12 o'clock midnight. The London session is between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. And the New York session is between 8 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. We're during a New York session. We sweep the London buy side liquidity, and now we're simply waiting for a bearish confirmation. This was the first bearish confirmation right here, and therefore my first entry was actually on the break of this candle low, and validation was just above the liquidity sweep, and we were looking at targeting a 1 to 2. So this first position actually got stopped out. And that was this position right here. You can see that was minus $1,100. And it looks like we actually may have got slipped a little bit on this position. Okay, so we're minus 1R on the day. However, we still need to be extremely patient. because it's still possible that we might get another setup. You can see right here we get another 15-minute bearish confirmation. So my entry was on the low of this bearish candle, invalidation just above the liquidity sweep, and targeting a mechanical 1 to 2 risk to reward. So I'm risking $1,000 on this trade. If it hits my stop loss and if it hits my take profit, I will make $2,000. Triggered short in this trade right here during the New York session. And as you can see, this trade did hit take profit for a 1 to 2, and there was actually some further continuation to the downside. And yes, we were triggered short right here. However, we started pushing around a 1 to 1. Then price actually came back to entry into some drawdown, and then we hit our take profit. So we had a losing trade right here for -1R, and we had a winning trade right here for +2R. Okay, so the next position was taken on the 5th of March, 2025, and this was on gold. All right, guys, so we're looking at gold on the 15-minute time frame. Directional bias in this scenario is long bias. The reason why is the 50 EMA is greater than the 100, which is greater than the 200. We have sell-side liquidity below the Asia session low, and we're approaching a New York session. Okay, so the session opens up right here, and we straight away raid the Asia session liquidity. Directional bias is long, so we're waiting for a 15-minute bullish confirm. So this is our 15-minute confirm right here. We can enter on the break of this candle high and validation below the liquidity sweep, again targeting a mechanical 1 to 2. So we were triggered in this trade right here, and during the New York session, this trade hit take profit for a 1 to 2. For this one, we got tagged in, and then we had a drawdown of around 50% towards our stop loss, and then price went on to hit our take profit for a 1 to 2. The next trade was 7th of March on the US 500. Okay, so we're looking at the US 500 on the 15-minute time frame. Directional bias, we are short bias, because the EMAs are in order, so we're only looking for shorts right here. Because we're looking for shorts, we need to identify an area of buy-side liquidity. This is your area right here above the London session high. We raid this liquidity during the New York open, and then we get a 15-minute bearish confirmation. So my entry was actually on the break of this bearish candle right here, invalidation above the liquidity sweep. Quite a large stop loss, but again, you know, we have to stay mechanical. We have to stay disciplined. So this was the setup of the trade. These were the parameters, either stop loss or take profit is hit. We got a pretty decent drawdown in this trade. We started pushing nicely to the downside, and then this trade did hit stop loss for a -1R. And yes, the stop loss was quite large on this trade, but this is where so many traders go wrong. They'll see this as a losing trade, and they'll take the sample size of literally one individual trade, and then they'll go amending their system. They'll go changing their rules. When actually I've seen setups like this play out more often than not. When I've actually seen setups like this one right here playing out over and over again in recent market conditions. And so the easiest way to frame this is this was a valid losing trade. Let's move on. All right, so the next trade was taken on the 11th of March. This again was on the US 500. Okay, so we're looking at the US 500 on the 15-minute time frame. Directional bias is sell bias on this market. We're heading into a New York kill zone, and the only raid on liquidity is the London session high. So we need to see this liquidity swept. This is your raid on liquidity right here, and then we get a strong 15-minute engulfing candle. Entries on the break of this candle low right here, invalidation just above the liquidity sweep, and again we're looking at targeting a mechanical 1 to 2. We triggered short in this trade right here, and as you can see during the New York session, this trade hit TP for a 1 to 2. There was a decent amount of drawdown, around 50% towards the stop loss, before price then reversed and pushed to the downside. You can also see we got quite an aggressive reaction off of that area, which indicates that your TP is in quite a optimal place. All right, so the next trade was taken on the 12th of March on the US 500. Okay, so again, we are sell bias on this market. We're entering during the London session. The only draw on liquidity is this Asia session high, and therefore we need to see that taken out. We raid this Asia session buy side liquidity right here, and then we get a bearish confirmation. My entry was taken on the break of this candle low, again invalidation above the liquidity sweep, targeting a mechanical 1 to 2. And this trade trade was just a straight stop loss. And I'd rather just know. I was triggered short in this trade right here, and literally the next 15-minute candle ripped straight up and took me out. And I'd rather this just happen than waiting around all day for a potential outcome. I quite like it when the market just rips the band-aid off and you literally know where you're at within the positions. So this was, an A+ setup, valid losing trade. And I would literally take this trade every single day in the market if it presented itself. All right, the next trade was the 13th of March, also on the US 500. Okay, so we're currently looking at the US 500 on the 15-minute time frame. Again, directional bias is bearish on this market, and we've actually seen a raid of the London session buy-side liquidity, and so we're simply waiting for a 15-minute bearish candle. This is your entry right here. Invalidation went above the liquidity sweep, again looking at targeting a 1 to 2. So I was actually triggered short in this trade right here, and I think there was like a little bit of a discrepancy at the time. This is between the FTMO liquidity feed and the one that I'm using right here, which is capital.com. It's a very minor discrepancy, but if you're looking here on capital.com, we didn't break the low, but I know on FTMO we did. And this is also the reality of trading on exchanges that are not 100% centralized. Regardless, I was triggered in this trade right here. And so my rules were literally either stop loss or take profit as hit. However, this is where I made quite a bad mistake. I actually closed this trade early around this area right here. And that was because I thought I'd made enough to pass the challenge. And then price actually pushed lower to around take profit. And so this was literally my mistake right here. And I think it's important to include this just to show that at the end of the day, we are all human. This wasn't really a bad mistake, but it still is a mistake nevertheless. So whenever you're not following your rules-based trading system to the absolute T, then you can classify that as a mistake. Next trade was taken on the 14th of March on gold. And again, this is another mistake from myself. Directional bias was longs on this market. We were during the New York session and we seen a raid of sell side liquidity. We got a 15-minute bullish confirmation right here. So my buy stop was placed at this bullish candle high with an invalidation below this liquidity sweep. And what didn't I do, guys? On this one occasion, I didn't account for spreads. So what ended up happening is this candle touched the candle high. It didn't break the candle high. It tagged me in and then literally went straight to my stop loss. And this is why it's very important to account for spreads and commissions. So I ended up taking a loss on this position right here when this actually wasn't a valid trade because it didn't break the candle high. And this was due to me not following my own rules and system. And again, this is the reality of trading sometimes. We are all human. We are subject to making mistakes. It's more about how you deal and learn from these mistakes that is important. And so yes, this was a losing trade, but it shouldn't have been taken in the first place. All right, and finally we have the final trade, which was taken on the 27th of March on gold. All right, so this is gold on the 15-minute time frame. We're long bias right here. We see a raid of the London session sell side liquidity. We're waiting for a 15-minute confirm. This is exactly what we get right here. Invalidation below liquidity sweep. Target a mechanical 1 to 2 risk to reward. We are triggered long in this trade right here, and this went straight to take profit. And you were in and out of this trade in literally 45 minutes. I want to point out as well in terms of time zones. A few of these trades were taken during the 2-week period of the year, where the American clocks change, but the London clocks are still the same. So it may look like these sessions are slightly out of sync, and that's because for this 2-week period of the year, you need to account for the change in the clocks. And so this right here was the final trade that allowed me to pass my funding challenge. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, passing challenges is not easy. You can see along this journey, there was certainly mistakes that I've personally made. There was one trade that I shouldn't have took. There was one trade that was closed early. And so yes, I do trade a fully mechanical rules-based trading system, but at the end of the day, we are all human, and there will be the odd time where you do slip up on trading your system. And to be honest, that's absolutely okay. It's really about how you bounce back from that mistake. 1, can you correct the mistake? And 2, can you prevent the mistake from happening again in the future? And that's the thing, let's say that you are trading a discretionary system. That means that you rely on your emotions and your intuition. Then how do you even know if you're making a mistake within your system in the first place? So without having a simple rules-based system where everything is defined and everything is black and white, then your trading is literally a mess. And so this is the exact system that allowed me to pass this 100k FTMO challenge, but it's also the exact system that has allowed me to get funded over $800,000. This system has worked for me and it's worked for many of my exclusive members. And so I think it can work for you too. If you want to learn more, then make sure to check out my exclusive community. The link's in the description down below. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.